here, and we're going to have the first team. I'm going to have them to introduce themselves, and they're going to start presentation.
All right.
Okay.
Good evening, and thank you guys in the classroom for joining us, as well as those that are connected. We're really delighted to be consulting here for the Novatis Group. In terms of presenters, we're going to have Tim Dalaa, myself, Latasha Hyatt, as well as Daphne Joachim. Now, as we think about the Moroccan diaper industry, in the competitive landscape, there are three primary brands. We have the Dalaa, which makes up 56% of market share, followed by Pampers that has just about half at 28%, and then lastly Huggies that has 6%. Now there's also 9% market share that is shared by smaller competitors, and also worth mentioning that Winnie has 1% market share. Now when it comes to diapers usage, urban families use 9 times as many diapers as the urban families right now, as the rural families. And this is based on the fact that rural families use 1 to 2 diapers per week, whereas urban families use 2 to 3 diapers per day. Now, when we look at the population distribution for Morocco, you can see that 58% is urban, whereas 42% is rural. And from a sales distribution standpoint, 85% of the diaper market is between small and mid-sized retailers versus 15%, which is going to large retailers. Next, Tim is going to talk about our SWOT analysis.
Thank you very much. Now, when I was analyzing the SWOT analysis for the Novatis Group, there were a lot of strengths and weaknesses that I found were very profound and really beneficial for the company. And external to the company, the opportunities and threats, there were some that stood out to me and that would really make a difference for the company going forward. Now, when I look at the strengths, Novatis Group has a very strong reputation, not just with the customer base, but with the government as well. They spend a lot of time improving the quality of life for the people of Morocco, not only through charities, but contributing to the entire country. And the government really supports these local businesses going forward. They try to give them an edge to the outside groups trying to come into the country. They also have a very strong distribution network, whether that be through the 3-tiered distribution or the single delivery method to the retailers alone. This multiple approach kind of benefits them to build those personal relationships not only with the retailers, but to the wholesalers as well. Now, in regards to the weaknesses, from the case study, the capacity for producing the diapers is maxed out. In order for the Novatis Group to increase the capacity, they need to invest in all new equipment, potentially new warehouses to actually build the machines and the diapers. So it's going to be a heavy cost to increase the capacity to meet the rising demand in the country. Another weakness was that there's a heavy reliance on imported raw materials. This is very common in developing countries, but going forward it might be wise for the Novatis Group to look to potentially find ways to import less to really compete, as they need more raw materials to compete with the demand. Outside of the organization, there are some real big opportunities that Novatis Group takes advantage of. They are well positioned in a niche market. They currently have 56% of the market share. There is a rising economy in Morocco. We see GDP up at 4.3% as of the 2011 case study. And the government, as I mentioned, was really supportive of domestic businesses, and they've even demonstrated the ability or willingness to put tariffs on imports to give the competitive edge to the local distributor. The Novatis Group also has additional product offering that they could capitalize on to increase the personal hygiene, as their corporate statement is, to really benefit not only children or babies, but the people of Morocco as a whole. The threats of the organization are that the global corporations are expanding. They're trying to get into these developing regions to bring not only just diapers, but other products as well. So as the free trade agreements are being organized by the country, those tariffs might be at risk of falling by the wayside, and it might be easier for global companies to come in offering their products cheaper than they were being able to before. And there's also a huge demand for the shelf spacing in the various retail businesses. not only in the Walmart type stores, but also in the mom and pop stores. So there's a huge competition there, and the incoming competition might be willing to pay more to get their products on the shelves. Next, we're going to have Natasha talk about the 5 forces.
Thanks, Tim. The next thing that we did was we documented what the competitive environment looks like. So we all know that we can use Porter's 5 forces to reveal the significant aspects of the competitive environment. What we determined was that new entrants as well as buyers do not at this time pose a major threat to the Novatis Group. And this is mostly due to the fact that the diaper industry already has low margins, so that already makes it unattractive, and then you couple that with limited shelf space. We also took into consideration the buyers. So at this time in the case, most of the retailers only buying small volumes. So we didn't see a big threat like we see here in Walmart, where they kind of beat down their manufacturers are going out on price. We didn't see that going on there. And we also know that a lot of business is based on personal relationships. However, we did note the 3 that are in red are of significant threat to the Novatis Group. So starting with existing competition. So we thought this was a major concern because usually when companies are trying to fight for market share, one of the first tactics that they do is do a price war. So we documented that, as well as commitment. So one of the things we do know is that Pampers has opened up a manufacturing facility in Morocco. So that right there tells you they're not going anywhere. And then lastly, common strategies. So just like Novatis is health and hygiene, you know, the parent company of Pampers, P&G, has something very similar, making them a big threat. Suppliers, or the power of suppliers, is also a major threat, mostly because of what we already know, the fluctuating prices of the raw materials, as well as the long lead times being about 3 months. And then finally, substitutes. The power of substitutes is big, mostly because there is not a lot of switching costs going from disposable to cloth diapers. And this is especially true in the rural areas where you have tradition as well as access. So next, Daphne is going to talk about the business strategy.
Thanks, Natasha. Good evening, everyone. This slide is our evaluation of Novatis' current strategy. Their current activities include Winnie and Dalaa are priced below Pampers. They spent $2 million on advertising in 2011, and they have many complementary businesses that make hygienic paper, that make adult diapers, that provide the marketing and communications, and that provide the delivery. We think they should keep these types of strategies. In addition, we think that Novatis has very strong guiding principles, such as stated here. Among the strategies that they shouldn't keep, they're positioned right now as in this David and Goliath type of competition, where they're the small producer with against a global competitor. We think that they should change that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about how they're going to stand toe-to-toe with Goliath and be able to influence the diaper industry market. We think they should change their capacity for making diapers. That's obvious in the case. And the ratio that they have of distribution to small retailers and to large retailers, we think that's going to get tweaked a little by the strategies that we're going to discuss. But where it is not bad right now. So next, Latasha is going to come back and talk about alternative strategies that we've considered.
Thank you, Daphne. All right, so now that we've talked about the competitive environment, we talked about the Porter's 5 forces, our competitors, and we also talked about the business strategy. So what we came up with is like 4 alternatives for Novatis. The first involves not increasing production at all, so keeping diaper production as is. One alternative that they could do is instead diversify. And instead of continuing into diapers, they can go into like sanitary napkins or producing maxi pads. But with that said, we also thought that another alternative was just to discontinue the Winnie brand. So kind of like we talked about, if it only accounts for 1% of the market, they could just scrap that and then use the additional capacity and then make more Dalaa diapers. On the other hand, we came up with two other alternatives. The first is to grow the Winnie brand. You know, if we already know it's only 1%, why not grow that segment? Or the last alternative is to expand in the rural areas and to target that market. So next, Daphne is going to talk about the capacity strategy.
Thank you very much. The question with capacity management is not whether or not to increase capacity, but exactly what's the best avenue for growth. I did a couple of calculations to forecast what the ultimate demand for baby diapers would be. And if all the babies in Morocco, were given a number 1.8 million in 2011, were using diapers, and without going into a lot of the calculation, the industry would need to provide 4.6 billion diapers a year. Right now, Novatis production is 720 million per year. I did a similar calculation. If every female in Morocco was using sanitary pads, the industry would need to provide 2.6 billion pads per year. So immediately that tells us the demand for baby diapers ultimately will be a lot larger than it is for sanitary pads. When Novatis adds a production line, they should focus on producing diapers. And as we know in the market in the US, baby diaper sells for a higher unit price than sanitary pads. So it's also a more lucrative industry. So when they install the new lines, in order to avoid problems with quality, they're going to need additional well-trained labor, and they should start planning for that. They're going to need flexible production because we're recommending that they make more Dalaa, but also more Winnie diapers. And if there's excess inventory, they have to do what most manufacturers do, pay the cost of warehousing their product, or they have to increase demand by increasing advertising. They might also have to lower their prices. And next, Tim is going to talk about the marketing strategy.
So marketing in a developing country is very, very tough to do. It's you know, in America, you typically see companies spending millions, billions of dollars in advertising because obviously the market is there. It's a well-established community. But in a developing country, every dollar you spend is a risk that you're not going to get that dollar back. So Novatis has to come up with a very solid marketing strategy to allow them to advertise year-round to get the most return on their investment. Currently, advertising in Morocco is slated during the Ramadan time only through TV commercials, and it is focused on the middle class in the urban areas. After reviewing the case, we determined that having a full year advertising would be beneficial for the company because of reaching a larger audience as more people are rising into the middle class or into the urban areas. Having this advertising at one point in the year misses out on the rest of the opportunity to grow the customer base. The campaign should remain in the urban areas because those customers have the greatest access to televisions or that kind of advertising avenue. So the urban areas are the places to go for that. With the literacy rate rising dramatically in Morocco, the use of the internet amongst the middle class is rising dramatically. So we found this as a great opportunity for the Novatis Group to begin advertising on the internet through advertising campaigns on the high traffic websites in that area. There really is a potential to target those advertising to the type of customers that they would expect to sell to. So they're not just spending money on just opening up an internet campaign, but they can really focus on the core target audience that they're trying to sell to not only save money, but have the highest rate of return. Some of the alternatives for marketing are to have a presence in these growing rural areas. That is to have maybe employees in these areas kind of go down to the rural areas to demonstrate how their products can actually increase the health of their children, of their families, and show them why their products are not just a once in a while type thing, but really show them the benefits that they do bring to families. Another alternative is to have a partnership with local area hospitals. More and more children are being born in hospitals, so this provides a really good opportunity for Novatis Group to have a care package of sorts to give to the new mothers. As these children are born, they can give them this care package of diapers and other products to really, as this is their first exposure to needing these type of products, Novatis Group is the first one in their hands. Another alternative is to provide coupons to the rural users. They use the diaper products the least out of anyone, not only because of the cost, it's also access. So having a coupon could encourage the rural users to actually use more than the one or two once in a while. Maybe by buying a diaper or a pack, gives them a coupon, they can actually buy additional ones at a lower cost point to keep them returning to using the same products at a more higher frequency. So it just kind of gives an alternative way of reaching out to the customers that are in demand. The rural areas, they do want the products, it's just that most times they can't afford it at full price. Offering it to those areas, specifically these coupons, might actually increase the business and make them more comfortable with actually using these diapers more than they are today, and that could turn a higher profit in the future. Next we have Daphne talking about the corporate strategy.
Thank you, Ken. The corporate strategy has to do with Novatis' future. And when we were thinking about their future, we wondered, what will Novatis do when there's no more tariff on the Pampers diapers? When it's lifted, prices will generally go down. And so we think Novatis should behave today as if there's no tariff. They should try to reduce their costs, reduce scrap, and the case talks about all the technology that they use, and they should be focusing that on optimizing their efficiency in their operations. They're already very strong in distribution to small and medium-sized companies. They should strengthen that, and they shouldn't tiptoe into the rural market. They should quickly invade and dominate that market before Pampers gets the same type of access that they have into those areas. And of course, they'll need to improve the quality of their product if there's any issues with leakiness, but they can take advantage of their position, understanding the culture, and provide them with the preferences that they might have for colors or style of diapers. And back to the situation with David versus Goliath, the strategy that they should take is to become national heroes of Morocco. That's supposed to show Morocco's flag. I don't know if it shows red. It's supposed to be red with the yellow star. Okay, the colors are off. But that flag should be on every package of diapers. And I know that Novatis is already well regarded in Morocco, but that kind of situation doesn't last. When a global competitor can come in with a lower price or higher quality product, people will have to buy that instead. And so Novatis needs to position itself as a national hero who addresses environmental concerns, such as championing the appropriate disposal of trash in the rural areas. Current environmental issues include land degradation and water supplies that are contaminated with raw sewage, according to the CIA fact book, because there is unauthorized dumping of garbage. And there's a lack of sanitation facilities. 48% of the population in rural areas don't have sewer systems in their homes. And there's unsafe drinking water for 39% of the rural population. When you look at Morocco, some of the major cities are on the Atlantic coast, and more inland, the cities are somewhat trapped between the Atlas Mountains and the Sahara Desert. You can imagine how precious a resource water is in those areas. So what if Novatis took the position that they would teach customers, don't use your precious water resources to wash cloth diapers. Instead, you should buy disposable diapers. But they can only take this position if they have a plan for disposing of diapers. Where do I point this? Sorry. Next slide, please. I'll put this down. Okay, thank you very much. Whoops, back please. Okay, thank you. So that brings us to this idea. Those colors are supposed to transition from red to green. Sustainability means being more green, but it doesn't look very green right now. But so the idea is graduated sustainability. Like when you have a big endeavor, it might be easier to try to accomplish it in steps. And this is showing how over time, Novatis can go from ignoring the issue of diaper disposal in rural areas to being responsible for its product through its life cycle. And that type of position would differentiate them from Pampers to such an extent that they would cement themselves in the history of Morocco as a national hero. And Pampers itself has a huge sustainability program in the United States, but I assume that they do not do the same in Morocco. If Novatis allows Pampers to start the sustainability efforts in Morocco before they do, then there's no need for a homegrown diaper industry. If the global competitor can come in and provide cheap, high-quality diapers and protect the people and the environment in Morocco themselves. But Novatis is best positioned to do the sustainability effort because of their connections into the rural area. And they can start simply with just printing "dispose of properly" on diapers and encouraging entrepreneurs to provide disposal services. They can maybe graduate to a more ambitious step and provide programs to help rural areas understand how to do garbage pickup, to partner with them. And lastly, the greenest position, which would be to start a division where they pick up the diapers themselves. And this is akin to a recent strategy we heard from a pharmacy here called CVS, where they said they're not going to allow or sell tobacco products in their stores anymore, which is a bold strategy because they're turning and moving their company to a different place. And the President of the United States commended them for their corporate strategy. And so imagine the King of Morocco commending the CEO of Novatis for its corporate strategy because it's protecting Morocco and making it beautiful. Next, Tim is going to talk about our distribution strategy.
Thanks, Daphne. All right, as I mentioned earlier, the distribution strategy that Novatis has is very effective and very strong. After reviewing both the different types of distribution, whether that's three-tiered or direct to retailer, we determined that the best source of action would be to maintain the three-tiered distribution and focus on that. With the rising of retailers, as mentioned, they dominate the majority of Morocco. They're all listed for mom and pop stores. Previously, Novatis Group had a very strong relationship with their retailers. They had that personal bond. They could deliver their product and kind of talk about pricing and make sure it was a win-win for everybody. Maintaining that kind of relationship with upward of 10,000 or more businesses is not a very feasible action. So using the three-tier distribution allows them to build the relationship with the wholesalers and work on the pricing and the strategy going forward, which will allow the Novatis Group to focus on building and delivering the quality products to the wholesalers, and let the wholesalers worry about distributing it to the other retailers around the country. Novatis Group will benefit greatly from having the bulk purchases to the wholesalers instead of selling individual orders here and there. So it's a very strong strategy to work and develop that relationship with the wholesalers going forward as the country grows and as the GDP rises. More and more businesses are going to grow, show up. So to have that relationship early on with the wholesalers will mean all the difference later on as their markets grow. One suggestion that we found was to not only just grow the relationship with the wholesalers, but to actually grow the distribution center as it is. We found that developing sort of like a hub and spoke approach to the distribution center. So you have the center distribution center in the country with all these satellite distribution areas really allows Novatis to focus on delivering to their distribution center, and from there they can move to the small satellite centers around the country, which encourages local retailers and young entrepreneurs to come in and maybe have an alternate strategy where they can sell the diapers themselves or open up additional opportunities for reselling without having to worry about the long wait times to get from the center of distribution, and also make it a little bit more cost effective for Novatis to deliver to these satellite groups and then reach out instead of one central location. So next, Natasha is going to take us through sourcing.
Thank you. So we know that sourcing management has also been of a concern from Novatis. So essentially they have three options. They could develop local sources, vertical integration, or should they continue sourcing as they already do right now. So some of the factors that we thought of in going through these strategies, so if you develop local sources, first off, are the raw materials that you need, are they available? And what about the price? Are they as competitive if you were to source the exact same thing from, say, Canada? In terms of vertical integration, we know that generally is a lot of capital investment there, so it costs money. And then lastly, with the strategy we already have right now, it comes up time and time again, the fluctuating prices as well as the lead time. We realized that Morocco is still a developing country, so we decided that it would be more beneficial to give a short-term recommendation versus long-term. So in the short term, we did not recommend vertical integration. Primary reason is that it's expensive, but this is also something that even founder of the Ford Motor Company had to learn is what is your core competency? Ours is making diapers. It's not making the raw materials that go into them. So we don't recommend that avenue. We also didn't recommend to develop local sources, only for the short term, mostly because we feel like if they had it, the prices wouldn't be as competitive as getting it elsewhere around the world. So with that being said, we believe that Novatis should continue sourcing globally. And some of the things that we came up with is they need to diversify their suppliers. So that way we're not just dependent on one supplier, and that weakens the power of suppliers, like we talked about. They also seek long-term contracts. And what they'll do is that'll mitigate some of the price fluctuations. We also talked about that's not available. What about futures contracts? So you lock into a price of the raw materials. And then lastly, we also think that it's worth, though, exploring at the local countries the possibility of providing raw materials to Novatis in the long run. So moving on to our recommendation, we really thought that Novatis should do a two-pronged approach. The first thing they should do is they should onboard a rural sales force. Right now, the diaper industry in Morocco, it has 72% penetration. We've already talked about the fact that people in the urban areas are using diapers daily, but the rural area is only using it weekly. So really, the real growth is going to be in the rural area. And we believe that the primary driver is access. So what we believe should happen, we should onboard a workforce. We envision this to be primarily women, where we're going to train the rural sales rep, and we're going to encourage self-employment. And what that's going to do is it's going to give access to those areas, and what we envision seeing is we're going to see increased market penetration. We're going to also see increased jobs. But even going back to what Tim said, we also believe that with the growth of the middle class, they're going to have more disposable income, but they're also going to demand more quality. Dalaa is a value brand. Winnie is the brand that we need to position as our quality brand. How we're going to do that is we're going to increase advertising, but we also need to increase R&D as well as innovation. One of the things that we saw in the case is that every 2 to 3 years, they did document how Pampers and Huggies came up with new different things about the diaper. If we're going to compete with them, we have to also put forth that effort. So essentially, what we need to do is we need to increase our winning market share. One of the ways we're going to do that is we have to continuously establish those relationships with the large retailers. We've already talked about the fact that right now, that's only 15% of our sales. We need to increase that number. But the other side of that is we also need to have increased exposure to our customers. So in the hospitals, when mom takes home their new baby, they're taking home our brand with them. Our recommendation is for us to install the new line, and we see the opportunity to expand our sales in the rural area, as well as the potential to grow our winning brand. Now, what questions do you have for us?
Thank you so much. Souheil, are you online?
Yes, I am here.
So it's yours. You're waiting for your questions.
Really, the first question I have for the group is, it was one of the first key points in your slides. You guys mentioned that Novatis Group is well established in a niche market. Why did you think it is a niche market? What made you guys see the diaper business, the diaper category, as a niche market?
Yes. Well, my thought was it's developing market. Currently, with Novatis owning 56+% of the market share, and it's still to me it seemed like it was a kind of an emerging industry with the disposable diapers. The middle class is growing, so more access to those diapers are available. Even the rural users are starting to use them, on a weekly basis. But we just found that that whole market is kind of a growing opportunity with not a whole lot of competition yet. So we felt that because Novatis kind of owns that market right now, it kind of provides opportunity for competition to come in, but I think they have a really strong position with baby diapers or personal hygiene for them. So I just think from that perspective, I think there's really kind of not a whole lot of competitors in that landscape right now.
Okay. And from a core target consumer type of consideration, who do you think, in your opinion, is the core consumer or the core target audience for the Dalaa brand versus the Winnie brand?
For sure, we believe that Dalaa brand is a value product, so we would see that being more of the rural area, whereas the emerging middle class would probably be more of the target for the higher quality Winnie brand. And one of the reasons that we looked at that, we looked at the fact that there were some studies out, I think they call it endogonomics, or I might be messing up the word, but essentially talked about the fact that when you have people with higher income or higher education, they tend to not necessarily go with the competitor just because they are originated in the country, but they start to look at other factors such as quality. So looking at Dalaa versus Winnie, we believe that Winnie should be more targeted towards the middle class, and Dalaa is more of a value brand, which would be the lower classes, or the value of the value shoppers.
And I think to add to that, I think currently Dalaa is one of the big sellers in the middle class right now. I think because there's obviously that opportunity to get these diapers on a more affordable scale. But I think as the middle class grows, there becomes more options. They might be more inclined to go toward the higher quality product going forward. So I think right now, obviously Dalaa is the big seller in the middle class, but I think it's going to go toward more of the Winnie brand in the future.
Very good. And I'm wondering why I haven't seen you guys consider an expansion overseas for the company or for the brand? Why is that?
It seemed like the case study sort of said you wanted to stay within Morocco and concentrate on the Moroccan market. Did we understand that correctly?
I believe so, but
Yeah. And tell me, are you also, in Western Sahara? Can you expand very easily there because Morocco seems to have a lot of influence in that area?
It's more rather than the Western Sahara. It's more of the closest countries that Morocco can export to ones with Africa rather than Western Sahara.
Say that again? Just where Africa?
You have countries like Algeria, Libya, Tunisia, Egypt. These are the closer ones for Morocco rather than sub-Saharan Africa.
I think that it is something that we thought about in terms of looking at neighboring countries. We just didn't have a lot of information as to if there are already if there's already a big presence, so another Novatis Group, another company like that already there, or if they're mostly dependent on global brands at that time, or at this time. We just didn't have that information as to if their needs are already being met or not.
Okay.
I do remember talking about it briefly, but I think with limited information, especially we didn't know what kind of penetration to expect in these neighboring countries. So I think we wanted to stick with more of the information that we had at hand instead of kind of making too big of an assumption on how big the market was in those countries.
Right.
So, do you have any more question,
No.
or should we move to the second group? Do you need like a few minutes break, or you're fine?
I'm okay. No, I'm okay.
All right. So we have, any question you have from? I'm asking students whether they have questions from the team.
I have a question. You suggested one of the alternative options was to discontinue the Winnie brand. If you did select it, if they did go with that option, would you then lower the price on the Dalaa diapers, or how would you meet the demand of the other market?
I don't think it was geared toward reducing the prices. I just think that because capacity was maxed, it was an opportunity to find additional capacity within your own equipment and own resources. We weren't going at it from a pricing standpoint, more on making the highest availability or highest demand diaper to increase that capacity without risking too much in purchasing new supplies.
It makes sense. The increasing capacity makes sense, because then I thought about what about the other markets? That's why they have two different products.
Yeah.
I think currently, with it being such a small percentage of their sales as of that case study, it was just one of the alternatives that we thought might, as far as a profit gain or loss from that, might be beneficial to provide more of what is desired
Right.
most.
Great.
I really liked and can appreciate your idea of putting the flag on the diapers and encouraging a sense of patriotism. And I also like the creative idea to have the women in the rural areas to sell to others in the rural areas. I was curious, did you all think at all about maybe penetrating those rural areas by selling directly from the internet, like shipping the product? Or would that even be feasible because of maybe in that area they're less likely to have computers?
Yeah, from what it said, the literacy rate, especially being poor in the rural areas, I don't think the internet is a very big opportunity in those areas. But in the urban, I mean, that might be a higher possibility to do kind of delivery type of system, but not in the
Right, and that was just also because, we also know in the case that even in the rural areas, they're only doing like 1-2 diapers, and the transaction costs are probably wouldn't even support.
And I have one more question. You were talking about the company's involvement in like sustainability, being green, and you had a slide that mentioned about educating about the disposal of the diapers. Were you referring to the disposable diapers? Or
Yeah, I was referring to disposing of the diapers
the actually
that they sell.
disposing of? Okay.
Right, and in the appropriate landfills, in authorized landfills, or any, I can think of an idea like if they supplied each person with a diaper genie, and then there was a service that came around and picked that up and replaced it, cleaned it, made sure diapers were treated before they went in landfills and not contaminate groundwater. And it's tough to make a choice which is more ecological, to wash diapers and to dispose of diapers in landfills. So I think if Novatis weighted one side or the other, then they could increase the demand for their product if they would weigh in a little bit more on their side.
Thank you. You guys did a great job.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I have one last question for the group. I think I saw that you had two different recommendations. One, which was increasing capacity, while the other one was just maintaining what we had while working on our other brand. So, if you had to pick one of these two strategies, which one would you pick?
The sales force? It would definitely be the sales force. I think that's definitely the more short-term one that we would go to, because what we want to do is potentially get that customer loyalty. So if we're saying that some of the rural area may be like untapped market, we definitely want to go after that first and expand there, especially with the idea of possibly getting customer loyalty, so that over time they'll continue coming back to us for their disposable diaper needs. You guys want to add to that?
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. And the second thing can get ready. And
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tina Zuber. I'd like to introduce my colleagues, Claudia Roberts, Jean Seaman, and Volchek Pilecki. Who's ready for some diaper talk? Well, this evening, my colleagues and I are going to present our findings in our case analysis of the Novatis Group, which is a leading diaper manufacturer in Morocco. First, we'll begin with an introductory industry analysis. Approximately 10 years ago, Novatis joined the Moroccan diaper market to serve the demand of a growing middle class. An attractive growth rate of 4.4% and a local entrepreneurial spirit of the CEO were the basis for Novatis becoming an emerging player in the Moroccan baby diaper market. Since their inception in 2003, Novatis has captured a robust lead among competitors with 56% of market share. 56% within 10 years, pretty impressive. And that's in large part due to their popular brand, Dalaa. Although they do offer additional brands of diapers and similar products, they have been careful in their market mix of products to fulfill a variety of needs, both of product and to different income brackets. Novatis is at a point where they're evaluating the strategies that help them capture their impressive market share to see if changes are needed to maintain that growth, both in the current and in the future state. A few considerations will be analyzed for that future strategic planning. The things that we'll be looking at tonight are increasing production. Now, this is not to be taken lightly. as high capital investment is typically associated with that adding the production capacity or equipment that we're talking about. And they already have slim profit margins with the products that they sell. So that would not be a decision we jump into rashly. Also, we've done quite a bit of analysis on the sourcing management model, what we do with the supplies today. And we'd like to look at Novatis, how they can maximize their current market opportunities. To explore these options in further detail, we'll next look at the SWOT analysis so that we can really explore the internal strengths and weaknesses and the external opportunities and threats. This company has a number of strengths to its credit. They have strong Moroccan roots. They have a founder, a production, and a distribution within this country, all nationally based. So they have close proximity to their customers that allows them to better understand their market compared to their competitors. They have quicker lead times for production and tech innovation. They've also had a really strong sense of social responsibility. Now, they employ Moroccans, they distribute to rural areas. They also package their products for lower socioeconomic groups, both in low-cost options and in individual diaper sales, as opposed to the bigger packages that you would see in other commercial markets. Along with these things, they have a charitable donations program as well. Their local employees help them to provide a lower labor cost compared to their competitors. And this in turn gives them a lower cost per unit than their competitors. What this really does for the company is it gives them the low-cost provider position within the market. Another huge competitive advantage is FGD, which is their local distribution system. This is not something that the competitors have, and it does help them tremendously. We also, at the same time, can't discount their great relationships with wholesalers. Now, finally, what else does Novatis have? They have continuous physical presence within Morocco. Since the company was founded over 10 years ago, they've consistently had production facilities and product on market. This helps with a bit of goodwill on the side of the workers there and the people that they supply these products to. Next, we can't have strengths without looking at weaknesses. And this is actually a really important assessment of the company's overall position. We need to better understand the weaknesses so that we can determine if we need to act on them. So a major consideration for Novatis is the fact that they have no local supplier of raw materials. This is something that requires long lead times, as much as 3 months in fact. This means that they also have a significant raw material inventory. Now their material costs are also subject to change, again, based on the current relationships that they have with their external suppliers. This price flux that's possible could potentially hurt them, particularly because they have those slim profit margins that we discussed earlier. Now, currently, they don't have enough product to meet market demand. Well, this sounds like a good problem to have, right? Well, in the short term, perhaps, but it is a strategic direction that they need to be concrete about. Do they want to continue to lose sales with their current production capacity, or do they want to do something about that, rise to meet the demand when they know that there's a growing middle class? Another possibility is that Novatis doesn't have currently exclusive shelf space agreements with their retailers. Neither do the competitors, but it's something for them to look at potentially in the future. Now these were the internal assessments. Next we'll look at the external factors. Beginning with opportunities, there have been increasing trends in local entrepreneurial investments. So if they are going to look to add that production capacity, they can look internally. They don't necessarily have to turn to banks. While Novatis is also a nationally based company, there's nearby developing nations in Africa, close proximity, that are meeting a similar profile for demand. If we're going to increase production, there is potentially a market here that's nearby that they could expand their distribution to. From an import aspect, government tariffs, there is a bit of the national pride, and we have multinationals that are subject to these tariffs, which helps Novatis maintain their low-cost position. On the distribution front, there are a number of supermarkets, nearly half in fact, that don't carry the Novatis product. We think that that could be due to low sales opportunities, but the trend should be monitored closely because this could be a potential growth area for them. Now also, Morocco has free trade agreements with the US and the European Union. More of a consideration for future, but certainly something to think about as they're increasing production. On the threat side, we know that there is fierce competition with the multinational providers, Huggies and Pampers. They want market share. We took market share. So those companies have bigger budgets as far as advertising goes. We need to make sure that we don't get complacent in our efforts to keep our market share growing and strong, and not have to necessarily compete dollar for dollar, getting into a price war. Demographics. Another key point here is to monitor birth rates. They're a significant factor in the diaper industry, as lower birth rates mean fewer diapers to sell. Fewer diapers to sell means lower profits. So that's something that we'll want to watch trends, both current and future. Another area of slight concern, it's not a huge percentage of market share loss, but there are illegally smuggled or black diaper Huggies on the market. This could continue to whittle away at the market share if it becomes a bigger problem. Currently it's pretty small. Now finally, there's limited disposal options in the rural areas for these baby diapers. If we can increase the demand in the rural areas, that can become a bigger problem. So now that we've reviewed the Novatis Group SWOT analysis, I'd like to introduce you to Volchek to examine how Porter's 5 forces are applied to the company. Volchek.
Detailed SWOT analysis helped us to understand what forces Novatis has to deal with and how they are shaping its reality and position on the market. Let's start with power of suppliers. This is certainly probably the most severe force that Novatis has to deal with. For one simple reason, there is no access to local sources of raw material. They have to bring everything from other countries, in many cases from the United States, Japan. What does it do? Well, we have high logistic costs, warehousing, transportation. Of course, if you transport raw materials from the United States, we're talking about at least 4 weeks, 5 weeks lead-in time. On top of everything, as Novatis is bringing the material to Morocco from different countries, we have to realize that the entity is competing with other manufacturers in different countries, not only multinational suppliers of diapers. You have to consider each country in Europe has local brands, and they all are competing for the same sources of raw material. Let's look at the power of buyers. Of course, it's a low switching cost. We have alternative cloth diapers, multiple use. Of course, this is brand reality dependent. In that case, Novatis is in the lucky position of being recognized as national brand, so it can compete with multinational entities. On top of everything, we have to remember that disposable diapers are still luxury in Morocco. Limited water resources, rural area, low income, so all that impacts high power of buyers. Of course, when you have power suppliers, power of buyers, we have to come to substitutes. There are different brands on the market, multinational as well as local brands. They are marginal, but still they are present. Low switching cost. All the diapers are priced pretty much in the same price range. They are a little bit more expensive or less expensive. Still, it's a matter of choice and personal preferences. To compete in that matter, the product requires differentiation in regards to innovation and quality. Those are probably the 2 key factors that may reduce the trade of substitutes. Let's talk about new entrants. as I said before, we have local players in the market. Marginal, no market share, but those companies can be easily targeted by multinational entities from other countries and bought out. What happens then? Immediately you have a big company on the market fighting for the same customers. Another factor we have to consider is Morocco as a country developing, evolving, and becoming attractive for investors from outside. Low wages, free trade agreements, of course, all that may bring different companies into the already severe conditions in the market. Another factor we have to take under consideration are preferable regulations for domestic players, and this one actually is helping Novatis because King of Morocco decided that he will promote national business, and to help them out, he implemented some tariffs that actually reduced materials brought from outside by 5%. Another factor that is helping Novatis is capital-intensive equipment and technology. It is not easy to start a company that requires $4 to $5 billion just to start new business. Expensive capital means high exit costs, so that's another factor that is reducing the threat of new entrants. Last but not least, we have intensive rivalry. Of course, as we mentioned before, we have presence of global and local players. They all are striving to gain the same customers. We have well-known products on the market, Huggies, Pampers. Then we have to look at the big picture. We have saturation of developed markets. What does it mean for Morocco? When you look on, let's say, United States, you have several brands on the market. They already reached their level of sales, and there is no more customers for them. So basically, you are fighting for the same customers. In that case, new opening market with improving economy is attractive one for each big company, as this is potential to expand and still grow, or at least maintain level of sales. Said that, let's look at the strategy. But before we start talking about strategy that Novatis has right now, let's look at some issues that they have to cope with. Of course, no access to raw materials. Manufacturing is totally dependent on outside sources, and then we have to consider currency exchange rate, unstable regions, tariffs in different countries. All that Novatis will have to deal with. Second one is, of course, due to long lead times, limited amount of raw inventory on hand. They are limited to 3 months. The product is bulky, takes a lot of space, drives the costs up. Having 3 months of supplies on hand determines that you cannot really utilize just-in-time method for cost effectiveness. So right here, Novatis is spending a lot of money just to maintain the production. As we said before, during our SWOT analysis, we have issue with the demand that is higher than the production capacity. Basically, Novatis is losing money right now. If they don't have a product they could sell, that means that they are losing money. They could make a profit out of it. Another issue is growing interest of multinational entities in the emerging new market. Africa in general is an emerging market. Morocco is just one example. There are other countries there, and there is a lot of companies like Renault that they will do anything to enter that market and secure their market share of that, in that area. Last but not least, we have evolving social model in Morocco. Let me spend on that one a little bit more time. The model of family in Morocco has evolved from 2 + 4, 5 to 2 + 3, 2, 3 model. What does it mean in the long run? In 2012, there was close to 10 million inhabitants here, 0 to 14 years old. So if you look at those numbers, and we're talking about reduction by 50%, that means that within the next 7 to 8 years, there will be no natural growth. The market will not be growing anymore. So that number will drop from 10 million of people to about 5 million of potential users of diapers. So that will have a direct impact on our recommendations later on. Let's look about the strategy itself that Novatis is utilizing right now. The strategy has been formed around 3 core values: quality, proximity, and citizenship. Let's start with quality. Commanding heights of Novatis decided to go for high quality product. So that means you have to utilize high quality technology, high quality raw materials, and skilled and qualified manpower. Only this way you can deliver a product that will meet expectations of your customers and assure appropriate level of quality. The third value, proximity. Distribution network of Novatis covered basically the whole entire Morocco. The company is located more or less in the center of the country, close to rural and urban areas, what helped them to develop very effective network. Citizenship, this is probably the strongest side of Novatis. They are dedicated to help Morocco grow and evolve into strong economy. They participate in charity within the country. They support orphan organizations and strive to make life of those children better. They also are striving to increase society's hygiene. This is actually the mission of the company. What else in regards to citizenship? I made it a separate point. Novatis is obeying national tradition. I don't know if you know about it. I didn't know about it for a long time. I mean, to the point when I met people from this region back in Poland. There is a very strong tradition in negotiations. This is almost a thread of this culture. So Novatis was able to capitalize on that, and through commitment of the president and personal contacts with wholesalers, he's able to maintain a really good relationship, and on the other hand, assure the brand loyalty. So where is Novatis heading? We determined that this is certainly a customer-focused organization. Their approach is access and needs-based. This is a mixed model. They deliver product to each region of the country. They are striving to meet the needs. They allow selling diapers in small quantities, what is very critical due to some economical conditions in those countries. Most of the families in the rural areas cannot afford spending a lot of money for the whole package. They rather go and buy 1 or 2. Remember, in those areas, cloth diaper is still a product of choice in many cases. So said that about strategy, that we best in agenda continue. Here you go. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. For the marketing strategy, we've decided that the company should be definitely working towards the strengths of the company, which are its quality, proximity, and citizenship, the core values of the company. This helps further distinguish Novatis from its international competitors, in particular Procter & Gamble. We feel that by developing stronger relationships with the society and promoting these values, it will help foster a very strong sense of nationalism and ultimately build on the brand. Another strength that Novatis can capitalize on is its very strong close relationships with the wholesalers and the other players in the market. We feel that it needs to strongly work with the other supermarkets and gain exclusive agreements, product agreements, in order to gain bigger shelf space. Currently, the company is working with approximately 100 of the 200 supermarkets, and by gaining exclusive product agreements, they can definitely expand the shelf space and therefore provide more product for the customers. The third recommendation we're making on our marketing strategy is increasing the advertising budget substantially. During 2001, $2 million was spent on TV advertising, specifically during Ramadan, as well as some advertising on the internet. Both of these areas should be increased substantially without having financial information to give an estimate. I personally would recommend at least a 50% increase in sales advertising, and not just during Ramadan, all through the year. As far as the internet, definitely need to increase the internet presence. There's approximately 13.2 million internet users out of a population of 33 million. That is expected to rise fairly dramatically as literacy rates increase as well. The final area, with regard to competing with Procter & Gamble, would be diversified packaging, giving the mothers and their babies options to buy less or more of the product, depending on how their buying needs dictate. The following advertising piece is very, I think, very good.
وانا العدلة عسل هنا عندي مخبع بغيتو تعرفوا هي حضر صيفطولنا 3 كنطار ولايا زيدوني هالعروان رسلوني الاشات والبازات وهكايا بالمئات والقرعة كل شهر وفي مجلة غتظهر غادي تربحوا واللي بغا زيد الشارع وربحتي واللي بغا زيد الشارع ربحتي كوش دلع جودة وإتقان بأحسن الأثمان.
And what this is getting at is, as you use more diapers, you can send in the IPC codes, be entered into a prize drawing, which again I think that will definitely help build that brand. The second piece of our marketing strategy has to do with building market share, which I think that by utilizing brand communications, 15 years of experience and expertise in market and advertising, we should be able to increase the brand awareness in the market, and again, not just during Ramadan. This should help reach the target market greatly. The second area, would be to utilize food and goods. Oops, did I get out of order? I think I did, didn't I? Well, we'd like to increase the distribution as well to the rural areas, and then finally increase production and marketing efforts of all of Novatis's product lines, including adult diapers, baby wipes, sanitary napkins, and hygienic tissue paper. And then finally, we definitely believe that we should be expanding into surrounding areas, including Algeria, Western Sahara, as well as other developing areas in Africa. And then our corporate strategy is a three-pronged approach. We definitely need to utilize users' paper-making capacities to manufacture hygienic paper products and capture a substantial market share and become the leader in tissue paper products. The next prong would be to expand current product lines through the production capabilities of Norsedex to increase Novatis Group market share for all products, which currently we have 56% for baby diapers. We need to that to and finally, again, expand into neighboring markets to capitalize on the local brand recognition and the quality and safety of society welcome that Novatis offers. And then turn it over to Gloria.
Good evening. As
As we mentioned earlier, right now Novatis Group's production can't keep up with the demand for diapers. So an option is to increase that capacity by adding an additional production line. So what does this mean for quality? How will Novatis Group be able to keep up with the current quality levels? We'll need to implement some sort of inspection and quality control program. Because we have this added capacity, Novatis Group won't have to sell every diaper they produce anymore, so they can afford to inspect them and reject any that do not conform to quality standards. Because more machines are going to be added, we're going to need to track them, collect and review data from the machines, both the new and the old ones, to ensure that they are running properly. Because you're going to need to add new employees to run this additional line, we need to make sure everybody is trained and the new employees are up to par with the original ones. Now with this added capacity, what happens if demand for the diapers goes down? You're going to have additional diapers in inventory that Novatis Group has to pay for instead of selling and making a profit for. So how are they going to manage that? Our recommendation, as we mentioned earlier, is to expand business into some neighboring markets to increase that demand and sell these unsold diapers. And if that is unsuccessful, the backup plan is to decrease the price of diapers to stimulate demand. And the reason this is not our primary strategy is that it could possibly stimulate a price war with competition. And this strategy will especially be successful if we can source material locally and have a higher profit margin. Distribution. Right now, Novatis Group has two different distribution channels. There's a multi-tiered market, which 85% of the diapers are sold by. And this is where Novatis Group sells the diapers to a distributor. The distributor sells them to small and mid-sized retail outlet shops, which then sell them to the end customer. 15% of the diapers are sold directly by the Novatis Group to the retailers, which are large retail stores, and they sell them to the customer. Now the question is, to be successful, should Novatis Group keep this system or should they eliminate the multi-tiered distribution system? As I mentioned, 85% of the diapers are sold through this multi-tiered distribution system. If that's eliminated, they're going to lose 85% of the business and also selling through these smaller and mid-sized retail outlets. Also, as we mentioned earlier, the family model is evolving. Families are having less children now, so the demand could eventually go down. So we don't want to eliminate any of their distribution channels. There's several advantages to keeping this multi-tiered distribution channel and selling in the small to mid-sized retail shops. Those are, you have that personal relationship between the buyers and the sellers, as we mentioned earlier. The culture is to bargain and to negotiate. The diapers can be sold individually. As we said before, mothers sometimes can't afford a whole pack of diapers and they'll buy one or two at a time. We're not going to be able to do that in the larger stores. And the president has these relationships with the wholesalers, which are very good for business. So, in sum, we recommend that the Novatis Group keep both distribution channels and keep that customer base. So for sourcing management, this is also a key consideration for Novatis. As discussed during the SWOT analysis, we showed that the raw material suppliers have a significant threat for the company. Now, since they have no local access to the raw materials, what does this do for costs, and what does it do for controls of inventory? Well, the high power of the suppliers today have a bit of a bargaining chip over us. We can't really demand certain prices based on the current agreements. We think that our competition also has the same group of suppliers, so there's really no competitive advantage with our current strategy. The costs of the raw materials fluctuate. So with the volatility of the raw materials prices, that could continue to erode our profit margins, which are already slim. And it could actually adverse our revenue and force us to lower our prices, which we really don't want to do. Currently, we want to maintain our low provider position for our customer base because that's what helped us to gain that market share, but we still have to make sure that we're doing so profitably. Another consideration with the sourcing is our suppliers are external, so there is a currency exchange rate. We know that those things will fluctuate and it will have an impact. Again, we want to have as much control over price as we possibly can, and this isn't something that we have control over. Warehousing costs. Since we have 3 months of inventory that we have to keep in stock while we're getting our new supplies in, we know that that causes us to have warehouse costs. It's just a fact of doing business. Would we like to spend that money elsewhere? Sure. I think that we can better utilize the money that we do have on some of the other initiatives that we've presented tonight. And if we're going to have inventory and warehousing costs, rather it be of finished goods so that we can distribute those to other neighboring markets. Now, to maintain our position with our sourcing management model, what we've proposed is to eliminate or at least reduce the effects of this threat. We would like to do a change of our model so that we have vertical integration by bringing in-house a local raw materials supplier. Novatis has done this in other areas. We saw our distribution channel. We had a local arm that was able to come in and successfully, I would say, complement the business model that we have. We think that we can do this here, but not without a challenge. Of course, we don't currently have a raw materials supplier. It will take some work to do so. But by doing that, we would certainly have a competitive advantage, one that our competitors would not have. We would be able to shorten our lead times, potentially have more control over cost because we would ask for exclusive rights with this particular supply chain. And if they need to branch out into other areas beyond the diaper market, they can, but our exclusivity would be with our particular products. So, lots of benefits. In conclusion, we've talked about a number of recommendations. Most recently, our sourcing is going to be a key advantage. That's not the only advantage that we think that we can present as a group of recommendations for Novatis. We do like the idea of the vertical integration for raw material supply, but we know that there are a lot of good things that the company already does. They have a strong position in Morocco. They've aggressively taken the majority of the market share with the current brand, and they do a really good job of meeting their local demands, except for in total capacity. So that's where our other recommendation is to increase that production capacity, bring in another line, start creating a little more inventory that we can sell in the marketplace and explore some of the other sales channels. The excess inventory, there we go, is something that we've talked about exploring some of our exporting options. There are emerging markets very close to Morocco, and we think that the market's ripe and that we have a really good shot at using the brand that Novatis has created and appealing to those local cultures to make them more appealing than some of the multinational groups. All right, now we're ready for questions from the group.
Souheil, you're ready?
1 second.
Are you giving the next?
Hold on a second, so I can hear you. you check at the top of your screen if your mic is muted there?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Excellent.
Very good. First of all, great presentation. I think you guys have done an outstanding job with every single key point you have mentioned. I'm going to go after one of the main pillars of your presentation, which is sourcing. You have repeatedly said that the company should go about vertical integration and try to source raw materials either locally or by acquiring companies that would serve Novatis some of the raw materials they use in manufacturing baby diapers. So how do you suggest we go about that? What do you think, in your opinion, are the steps to get there?
Let me answer this question. In our opinion, Novatis already did a great job starting business, maintaining business. So why not to start another branch and support local community that stays well aligned with the core values of the entity? We don't know, unfortunately, that well reality in Morocco, but I'm sure that there are opportunities of starting production of raw materials within Morocco under Novatis brand.
Yeah, and in support of that as well, with the current appetite for entrepreneurial investment, the goal would be to get some investors interested in helping us start this new business, and potentially do some profit sharing to make sure that they get some return on their investment. And with enough capital, we would hope to attract that business in the local community.
Okay. My next question is regarding advertising. You have suggested to increase the allocated budget of advertising. What do you think, in your opinion, should that budget represent based on sales?
As a percentage of sales?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would definitely think a 5% would be a good starting point. I have no idea what your current sales are, but I would have to imagine that $2 million is a small amount for the businesses that you currently own and operate. And with the, it seems like you are being very productive in meeting all the demand, well, actually not meeting all the demand. So I would think a good start would be 5% of your sales, gross sales.
Which would be justifying with the growing middle class and the growing literacy rates and use of internet in the urban areas. So that would be a way for us to reach more of the target market.
And increase capacity.
Right.
Very good. Last is you have also suggested for pension to start other products. You mentioned toilet paper, sanitary pads, etc. Would you suggest the company to, or recommend to the company to use the Dalaa brand on those products, or come up with new brand names or different brand names for these products?
Oh, that's an excellent question. From a marketing perspective, I think it's an absolutely great idea to link the two together. Absolutely. To build, further brand loyalty among the Moroccan buying public. Absolutely.
Dalaa is already recognized as national brand, correct?
Right.
Absolutely.
So I think this brings quite a few economies of scale to the table, and I think that should be your next step. Bring out another products under the same name.
Well,
Any other questions?
I'm not on my side.
Go ahead.
Actually, I have two. a question. It's like, based on your recommendation, I didn't really see how it would get to the rural people. So it seemed, I remember you guys talked about more advertising and doing agreements with like supermarkets, but what about, or how do you guys plan to get the attention of the rural area?
Well, one of the things that I was looking at specifically, which my slide got kind of messed up there, but was utilizing food and goods distribution. That particular company, they have a logistics experience. I would recommend that they utilize that particular company to help expand into the rural areas, you know, so that it's not hodgepodge. It's a directed effort.
On the side of the product, we mentioned we wanted Novatis to implement reduced, let's call it single packages. One diaper prepared already for sale, because my assumption is that at that point, local retailers are getting the complete box and they're just selling one by one. Well, from the hygiene point of view, let's break it apart and sell one piece already packaged nicely. Any other questions?
Any other question?
Does that produce a lot more trash?
Paper is not fresh. It can be utilized easier than the diaper. It can be utilized much easier than the diaper. Those diapers has plastic backing. The natural utilization method takes 50 years for a plastic to fall apart. So you have an option: burn it, or put it somewhere and wait 50 years till plastic backing will disappear. So I think the paper packaging can be fully recycled. Paper cannot be considered as a trash. When you throw it on the ground, it is trash, but when you recycle, it's not.
You seem to make certain assumptions about their profitability. Where did you get your assumption?
Well, that's difficult because we don't have that information. I'm going with the idea that it's got to be much more profitable than maybe we think it is, just because they have such a large market share and have stolen market share from Procter & Gamble as well. Initially, they stated that Procter & Gamble had 80% of the market, and now it's down to 28%. So it has to be to a point where they are relatively profitable.
Souheil, would you tell us what was the profitability in 2013?
Let me finish this one, then we're going to have general question with Souheil.
Okay.
So
all right.
Because one question from the team, so the team can see it, then we can give the open up for the next 10-15 minutes, depending on Souheil's time, to general question, and maybe Souheil can give us some what they did actually, or what's the current status of Novatis Group, as long as it's not confidential. So any more questions from the team? No, thank you so much. Why not you guys seated, and then we can have Souheil to talk briefly. Then we after Souheil is done, we will take a break with the rest of the lecture. Souheil, is all yours. So you want give us some news from where we finished the case, as long as information are not confidential, and then we can have open to some questions from audience, if you have.
First of all, let me congratulate both groups for the outstanding work they have done. This is really, really some very, very presentation. And this is the type of stuff I would expect from high-level marketing manager, brand managers, or even marketing directors. So really, I'm very happy to have seen these presentations. So let me give you a quick update of what has been going on ever since that case was. We have indeed increased our production capacity by about 40%. To meet market demand. So we did indeed increase production capacity. by acquiring new machines and building a new plant. We have exceeded based on my last reading of market shares last month. We have now gotten to about 64% in market share versus P&G, who are now at 18% market share. At the same time, there have been new entrants in the market on the lower tiers, but they do not exceed 4 to 5%. We have also increased our marketing budget to about $4.5 million today. And we have almost got away from solely investing on advertising in Ramadan. We are now on a full year basis. Our share of voice in terms of advertising compared to P&G is about 200%. We spend 2.5 times more, more advertising budget on marketing compared to P&G, and that helps us get more market share. In terms of some qualitative KPIs that we are now building and gathering from the market every quarter. Compared to P&G, we are at about 90% top of mind, which means 9 women out of 10 who are asked about diapers will tell Dalaa before they mention diapers. So they will mention Dalaa before mentioning diapers. This is one of the key gains for the Dalaa brand today. We have also now, about 6 months ago, completed a $50 million investment in building the largest tissue manufacturing plant in North Africa. It's a plant that manufactures about 30,000 tons of tissue paper every year. And we have now completed the investment and have already and are in the process of putting these products on the market. One of these products has the Dalaa brand on it. Other products have the new brand on them compared to having Dalaa. So overall, the turnaround of the company, we are in terms of the Novatis baby diaper type of products, we're averaging today about $180 million of sales. Compared to $120 million just 3 or 4 years ago. And we are expecting to do about $250 million of sales in the new tissue business.
Souheil, can you tell us anything, if possible, that, whether you have expanded or you have acquired, foreign companies in the neighboring countries?
We have not expanded yet over neighboring countries. This is currently for 2014. This is my #1 priority, is to go into new markets such as Algeria, Libya, Tunisia, and Mauritania, which are the closer countries to Morocco. This is turning out to be a little more difficult than initially expected, as transportation costs to these countries are higher. Because of the low frequency of ship and trade between Morocco and these countries, so it's really more costly to transport containers from Morocco to these countries. But it really is on my highest priority this year to try and develop and get the Dalaa brand to these countries as soon as possible.
Thank you so much. I'm going to open up to students. Do you have any questions to ask? I understand it's almost 1. What time is it? 1 o'clock in Morocco.
It's about 12:30.
So where are you? Are you in Morocco or you are in Dubai right now?
I am in Casablanca right now. I'm taking off to Dubai in a couple of days.
Okay, great. So let me, student, again, this is a great opportunities that you provided to us, and I want to really appreciate what you have done for us. We are doing a very good case, and then we have an executive of the company in an emerging market live with us, not only discussing and judging the case, also giving us information about the recent development. So I'm going to take it. You guys have any question? Please go ahead.
I had a question. I wanted to know if you could speak on how the Winnie brand is doing, and if it's currently like greater than the 1% before, or what are you going to do with that long term? I might be too far.
I'm sorry, could you please get closer?
No, she's going to come closer to ask,
All right, I had a question about the Winnie brand. I know that in the case from the data we had, it had about 1% market share. And I was curious to know if it has increased since then, and has your strategy for Winnie changed at all, or is it more focused specifically on Dalaa right now?
So ever since the case, we have now discontinued the Winnie brand to give more way for Dalaa brand and be able to increase our capacity on the Dalaa brand. However, you guys were right about the fact that there is a growing middle class, and we will need a different brand, a higher, a more premium brand. And we are definitely looking at that option right now. Not to bring back the Winnie brand, because at a certain point in time that brand had somewhat legitimacy. So it is now to kind of revive or create a new brand to go after these new consumers.
Mr. Badaa, your comments, please, on the disposal of diapers throughout Morocco, like the trash disposal, I mean.
Morocco being distribution, Morocco being what it is today, and so geographically broad, and consumers not being. Remember, the illiteracy rate is about 48%. So most people do not separate their trash and between glass and disposable and tissue and paper, etc. So, to be very honest, I don't see how it would be feasible today to get a specific collection of baby diapers. I think there is, you are right, there is an opportunity there. I can definitely see it. Recycling will definitely be a certain opportunity, but currently I do not see any type of collection model or distribution model that would help get that. Maybe in the future, in the near future, it could happen, but I currently don't see how we could do it.
I have a question. Thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate your presence. I was wondering, like, in terms of the advertising during Ramadan, I know you've changed that, now you're advertising throughout the year. Can you tell us a little bit about why, I mean, is that normal for companies in Morocco to just advertise during that season, or?
Well, think of Ramadan as the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl is just a couple of weeks away now, and I think you guys saw that the number of advertisers that were on the Super Bowl, that they were willing to pay $3 million for a 30-second ad. It's exactly the same thing for Morocco. During Ramadan, all households will be sitting at their dinner table in front of the TV at the same time. So you have a huge audience. So basically you have a Super Bowl that is repeating itself every night for 30 days. Therefore, it is really clear for every single advertiser that wants to get their brand out there to advertise during Ramadan. Although it is more expensive and costs 3 times more than it would advertise on a regular day during the year. But there is a clear ROI to invest in Ramadan. Think about the Coke ad that you guys saw, I think, on the Super Bowl. Everybody's been talking about it ever since it aired. But the Doritos ad, think about all these famous ads that aired during the Super Bowl in the US. These type of ads get the buzz out about the brand. And that's what we needed to get the word out there about the Dalaa brand.
Okay, and I have one more question. I'm just curious, how are the individual diapers actually sold? Are they out the box, or do they have their own packaging, or?
No, they unfortunately don't have their own packaging. Retailers would rip the bag open and sell diapers by the unit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you very much.
you're very welcome.
Okay, any more question?
Mr. Badaa, I have a question. Have you ever considered entering Eastern European markets? I'm actually from Poland, so it's Central Europe, but I know that a lot of companies from Poland are investing in Ukraine, White Russia, and those countries.
We have been approached by a few investors in, I believe, in Ukraine, in Poland, and in Romania. However, we choose not to. We thought we don't have enough insights on those markets, so we believe there's still plenty of growth to go after in Morocco and the African region. So we decided not to go after those Eastern European markets. However, last year, the Huggies brand completely pulled out of the European and the North African markets. And we have been approached to acquire their plants all over Europe, which we made a bid to do, but we did not come to an agreement with Kimberly-Clark.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other question?
Hi. First of all, congratulations on the company. It seems like it's evolving very well, especially in this market. More on a personal level, since the time that you did this case to now, if you could find like one thing that maybe you learned the most, or something that you feel better suited to handle today, what would it be to share to growing MBA students here?
I think one of the things that helped me the most when I was going to school in the U.S. and whenever I did my MBA was really the case studies. And on the importance of brands in the country. I think every company, yes, they have machines, they're expensive, buildings are expensive, cars are expensive, distribution is expensive, but the most important asset a company has, whenever it's dealing with a fast-moving consumer type of product, it is its brand. If the company is building its brand right, consumers will go after it and they will use it every day or as often as possible. And that is, in my opinion, the company's biggest asset. And that's something you should always look after whenever looking at a business plan, is how well a brand can do it and how is it doing currently. And that will definitely set you out on the market.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Souheil. Just one last question. It will be on a personal basis. I know you just recently married. When are you going to use diaper yourself too?
Very soon, actually.
So that is, is it what? You're expecting soon or what?
I am actually.
So congratulations.
Congratulations.
So when are you going to be an uncle?
Actually, that'll be in a couple of months.
Okay, very good. So you're not only producer, you're also going to be a user too. Thank you so much. Thank you again. This has been, really an historical moment. During the last 30 years, I've been teaching to having a executive of a live case now on live from an emerging market. And again, what you have done, accomplished at Novatis Group is extraordinary. It's a family business that you guys have grown it so good that it's becoming as an example for other companies called Eastern Europe contacting you. So maybe one day we're gonna have Dalaa brand in Detroit.
Hopefully. We look forward to that day.
Thank you so much, Souheil. So I will I will get in touch with you again through Gmail. And anything else, guys? I just want to, I don't know whether you can see us or not. I just want to thank you and let you go to bed because you have to wake up very early tomorrow, go to work.
Thank you. Well, congratulations, guys. You did a fantastic job. And thank you, Dr. Taj. Thank you for letting me in tonight and be with you guys on this session.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.